This is the DDJ-800. It's a 2-channel controller for Rekordbox DJ, and it's got built-in jog wheel displays, onboard beat effects and sound color effects, and it also lets you connect turntables and CDJs. It's Pioneer DJ's latest model in its revamped line of DDJ controllers, which includes the DDJ-1000, which has the full-size jog wheels, and the entry-level DDJ-400. So before we dive into the DDJ-800, let's first talk about what's changed with these new controllers. And if you've been following digital DJing for a while now, you're probably wondering what exactly is new about them. First, you're gonna notice that the looping controls are now found at the top of the decks and that they're similar to what you'd find on a CDJ or XDJ media player. Second, the effects section now consists of the sound color effects, plus you've got the beat effects which sit beside the mixer. In the past, DDJ controllers had effects knobs and buttons at the top of the decks, and this lets you control Rekordbox DJ's effects. But now the effects are found via the beat effects strip, though you can still control Rekordbox DJ's effects via the pad effects mode. And we'll get into these along with other key features later in this review when I give you a quick demo. But first, I'm going to show you some sweet highlights of this device. Don't forget to like this video and to drop us a comment below after you've watched it and let us know what you think about this controller. Alright, let's get stuck in. So the DDJ-800 is a 2-channel controller that works with Rekordbox DJ. And it's plug and play, so that means you don't need to activate a Rekordbox DJ license, which is a nice touch. And of course, that means you can use it with any laptop without having to go online to activate or to log in. It's got 3-band EQs, it's got trim pots and sound color effects knobs, volume faders, a crossfader, plus an input matrix that lets you switch between any of the 4 virtual decks in Rekordbox DJ, or your line or phono input if you've got a media player or a turntable connected. Because yes, this works with Rekordbox DVS for all you scratch DJs, though you'll have to purchase a Rekordbox DVS license, which comes separately. The 2 decks on the DDJ-800 each have a jog wheel with built-in display, which shows you stuff like track data, art, waveforms, and cues, and we'll take a closer look at them later. And the jog wheel also has a feeling adjust knob for changing the tension if you want a tighter or looser feel. The looping controls at the top of the unit lets you set in and out points for your loops, as well as a 4-beat auto loop. Below the jog wheel, you've got the performance pad section, which consists of 8 RGB backlit pads, and they've got 8 pad modes: hot cue, pad effects 1 and 2, beat jump, sampler, keyboard, beat loop, and key shift. To the left of the pads, you've got the transport controls, and to the right is a full-length tempo fader for adjusting track tempos during tempo matching and beat mixing. Now the rear has RCA and XLR master outputs. You've also got 1/4-inch booth outputs here, 2 pairs of switchable RCA phono line inputs, combo and 1/4-inch mic inputs, a USB output for your laptop, and a power socket. And the front has a 1/4-inch and an 1/8-inch headphone jack. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the jog wheels of this unit. The jogs on the DDJ-800 feel solid. They look similar to the DDJ-SX3 and the jogs on the DDJ-RX. And the main difference here, of course, is that the jogs on the DDJ-800 have displays in their centers. And this is the main selling point of the unit, because the display shows you info like a track's waveform, you've got album art, time, tempo, and key. And below the waveform, you've even got a cue scope, which shows you which hot cues and loop cues are coming. And the cool thing is that you can customize these in the Rekordbox DJ preferences. Say you want to just show album art, or you want to remove the cue scope. Let's say it's taking up too much space and you don't really need it. Or you want to change the time display from time elapsed to time remaining. You can do that in the Rekordbox DJ preferences. Now the feeling adjust knob is a nice touch, and one that isn't found in either the DDJ-RX or the DDJ-SX series. And this lets you adjust the tension of your jog wheel to your liking. And while the stiffest setting isn't as tight as I would have liked, it's still better than nothing. And you know, I like adjusting jog wheel tension. I think they're important. Let's talk about looping. So the loop controls on the DDJ-800 consist of a loop in and loop out button for manual loops. Plus, it's also got a reloop or exit button for disengaging the loop that you just made. And the loop in button doubles as a 4-beat auto loop when you hold it down. You can double or halve the loop by pressing the cue loop call buttons over here. And that means that the loop controls are laid out exactly And they work exactly like those found on a CDJ, and that's great news if you already spin with CDJs in the club or if you want to spin with CDJs later on, because personally, I've always found CDJ looping to be confusing if I'm coming from a DDJ controller. And I also found it less intuitive than the auto loop buttons that you can find on older DDJ controllers like the DDJ-RZ. So having them laid out this way means that you're really building the muscle memory and you're also getting used to setting loops the CDJ way. So it really helps, especially when you are at the club and you're already faced with a CDJ and DJM setup. Now, the effects controls for the DDJ-800 consist of 3 sections. You've got the sound color effects, which let you dial in stuff like dub echo, noise, pitch, and filter using the sound color effects knobs over here. And you've also got the pad effects, which let you trigger Rekordbox DJ's built-in effects using the performance pads. And that's something that I actually prefer over using effects knobs in like older DDJ controllers because they're quicker to use in the middle of a mix. And lastly, you've got the beat effects section, which lets you access 14 time-based effects. And these are the same effects found on the DJM-900NXS2 mixer. And the way they work is they automatically sync to the BPM of the track that you've got playing. And when you dial in a beat effects, their behavior is locked to that tempo, and you can alter their behavior using the beat buttons, which you can find over here in the beat effects strip. And I'm going to show you later on what they sound like in the demo portion of this video. So I really like how the beat effects is set up because when you're spinning at the club, these are the effects that you're going to have access to. And they can be pretty confusing to set up and use, especially for new DJs, beginners, those who don't get to spin often at venues with a CDJ or DJM setup. So I think that Pioneer DJ's decision to bring beat effects to its controllers it's one of the biggest reasons to trade up to the newer DDJ controllers if you have plans of being a club or a festival DJ. So now that you've got a macro view of the highlights of this controller, let me take you to the demo. I'm gonna play like a track over here, then we're gonna take a look at the pads, we're gonna take a look at the effects, and then after that, we're gonna get to the conclusion, and I'll let you know what I think about this unit. All right, so let's do a quick little demo using the DDJ-800. I've currently got it connected to my laptop running Rekordbox DJ. So let's try loading a tune over here on the left deck. I'm gonna use a browse knob. I'm gonna go to this playlist here, downloads, and then I am going to load this track over here on the left deck. So you're going to see the left deck populate over in the Rekordbox DJ interface, as well as here on the jog wheel display. You can see the album art, you can see the tempo, you've got the waveform over here, as well as this Q scope below that, as well as other data such as time remaining. You've got the pitch here as well as the tempo, and all of these change in real time as you move the controls. So again, really handy to have this jog wheel display over here so you don't have to spend so much time looking at your laptop. So let's play this. There we are. And again, I can just add hotkeys as I'd like just by pressing the pad mode hotkey over here and then pressing the pad that I want. Say that one. Works just like a hotkey. No surprise there. And I've also got other pad modes in here like pad effects 1. And when I press that, you're going to find all of the Rekordbox DJ effects that I can trigger over here on your screen. So if I press this one, it's going to activate spiral. So it's going to do sweep, flanger, reverb, echo, and so on. You even got backspinning there. And you can edit these just by pressing the gear icon here, and you can change these as you like. But basically, that's how pad effects work in the DDJ-800, as well as other DDJ controllers that have the pad effects feature. You've also got beat jump here, which lets you jump in different beat increments. You can jump back or jump forwards, 1 beat, 2 beat, 4 beats, or even 8 beats if you like. Just like that. And you can also access the sampler just by pressing that. And if you take sampler over here in the Rekordbox DJ screen, you're going to find all of the samples that you've got loaded. I've currently got a couple in here, and I can trigger them just by pressing these pads. And you're probably wondering, why am I not hearing anything? Well, it's because the sampler level over here is set all the way anti-clockwise. So let's bring in some level here, 12 o'clock position. And now we can start to hear those samples being played back. Yeah, so it's your sampler. And you've also got keyboard. If you hold down the shift button, press the hotkey. You got keyboard, which lets you pitch shift a hotkey that you've got selected. You can pitch it up, just like that, or you can press page button, press page right, and this pitches it down. Down, 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 lower and lower. So really cool if you want to do like some hot cue juggles or tone play juggles using performance pads. And beside that, you've got a second set of pad effects. This is the second bank of pad effects. And again, you can change these as you like just by pressing the gear icon over here. Currently, it's set to slip loop, and they are momentary hold effects. Of course, you can change these to toggle on and off, again, just by going to the gear icon over in the Rekordbox screen. And beside that, you've got beat loop. So these let you set really quick auto loops, different beat increments. Each pad basically corresponds to a different beat length. So currently you've got 16 beats. If you want to set a 16 beat loop, you can go 32, 64, all the way to 512. So that's it for beat loop. And again, if you want to exit, just press the exit button over here, or you can press this pad again. And we're going to go through the looping controls later. And finally, you've got key shift, will let you key shift the song, change the musical key. And the cool thing about having this on-screen display is as you're changing the musical key, you can also see it changing over in here. So currently, the default is G minor. If I press this one, it brings it up one semitone. Now it's A flat minor, now it's A minor, B flat minor, and so on. And just like in keyboard mode, if I press page right button, these pads will now shift the entire track down. Lower and lower, lower and lower. Yeah, so if you're into key mixing, this is something that you're going to find very, very interesting. Okay, cool. So that's it for the performance pads. Let's just jump back to hot cues again. And let's take a look now at the looping controls over here on the top. As I mentioned, these are the controls that are similar to what you'd find on a CDJ or XDJ media player. Great if you have club or festival DJ aspirations. So let's see how they work. I'm gonna hit play. I'm gonna set a loop. Got that in there. And now I'm gonna set the out point. Okay, so I've set that loop now, but I don't think it sounds too good. I think I was a little bit late in pressing the out button. Yeah, you got that nasty little tut-tut part towards the end. So I am just going to press the out button once again. And now this lets me adjust the out point using the jog wheel. So very, very nice. Let's go have a closer look. Yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. Once I'm happy with that, I just press out again. And now I've got the loop going, and now it sounds great. Awesome. I can do the same thing with the input if I just, with the start of the loop, just by pressing the in button. But I think it sounds fine, so I don't need to move that. If I want to exit the loop, I just press the reloop exit button over here. There we are. Now I can also set an auto loop, which consists of 4 beats just by holding down the in button for a few seconds. Just like that. Now I've got a 4-beat loop going. And the cool thing is I can have or double that loop. So I just press the left cue loop call button if I want to have it. Great for making buildups. Just like that. And I can double it just by pressing the 2x button over here. And again, if I want to exit the loop, I just press the reloop exit button. Pretty easy. Cool. Now let's take a look at the jog adjust. This lets you adjust the tension of the jog wheel. The default is 12 o'clock. It's fine, but I want it a little bit stiffer, so I can move this to the right, clockwise. And now I got a stiffer jog wheel. Now I would have preferred to have this a little bit stiffer. Still, it's just not that tight enough for me, but I think it's fine. Yeah, I'm just really particular when it comes to that. But yeah, again, it's better than not having a jog wheel adjust or feeling adjust knob. So I'm happy that this is on board this controller. And if you move it all the way anti-clockwise, you can have a really light jog wheel. Great for doing spin backs like that. So pretty cool. All right. Okay, so we've taken a look at the jog wheels and the display. We've also taken a look at the looping controls, and we've gone through the performance pads. Now let's take a look at the effects on the DDJ-800. And as I mentioned, there were 3. We already touched on the first one, the pad effects. Now we've also got sound color effects, which you can access via this matrix over here and through the sound color knobs, and also the beat effects strip over here. So let's take a look at the sound color effects first. Let's hear how they sound. I'm gonna press dub echo. Gives us a nice echo effect here. Great for techno. You got pitch, just a pitch shifter. Cool. You got noise, just a noise generator. Yeah, and you've got filter. Yeah, useful. Okay, so currently you've got these 4 sound color effects, right? Let's say you don't want to use noise, you're not really fond of using pitch. Are you stuck with these 2 effects forever? Well, no, because that's what's really cool about mixing with Rekordbox DJ. All you need to do is to go over here to the effects section and click on user. And now this lets you change the sound color effects that you're using over here. So let's say you want to change pitch. Just press pitch. And then you can change this to any other effect that you like. You've got jet, you've got crush, and you've got space, and you've got sweep. Let's say you want to change it to sweep. So go ahead and click sweep. Now every time you press play, and you've got the pitch button enabled, it'll now give you the sweep effect. So we've modified the effects that we are able to activate through this matrix over here. So let's try that again for like noise. Let's change this. Let's say we want to use jet. So now whenever I press noise, I get the jet effect. And the cool thing is that these changes get saved over here in your Rekordbox DJ software. So whenever you plug in or you start your computer, you don't have to do that configuration again for the sound color effects. They stay as is. So it's pretty awesome. Little tip for you there. Okay, so now that we're done with the sound color effects and we've already touched on the pad effects, let's finally take a look at the beat effects section, which is something that is taken straight from the DJM-900NXS2 mixer. So this is what you're gonna find in clubs and festivals. If they've got like a CDJ or DJM setup, more often than not, they're gonna be using the DJM-900NXS2, and the effects over here on the DDJ-800 come straight from the DJM-900NXS2, as well as the controls here, which I will explain right now. So let's play this track again. And let's choose an effect. Currently, it's set to low cut echo. You've got your OLED display over here. And this knob basically lets you assign which channel is going to be affected by the beat effects. So I can move this all the way to 1, because this is deck 1. So that means whenever we activate the effect by pressing this one and moving the level depth knob, it's going to affect deck 1. Now I can also choose master. So that means everything coming out of the master channel gets affected by the beat effects. And that's useful, say, if you've got another track playing and let's say, you want to do a little mix here. Let me just do something really quick and dirty. Something like that. Kill it. Now let's say you want to add some effects. So now deck 1 and deck 2 are being affected. So that's one way to assign your beat effects. And now let's have a listen to what the beat effects sound like. So we're done with low cut echo. Move on to the next one. Just echo. Level depth knob lets you specify how much of the effect gets added. Like that. And the beat button here lets you change the beat length. Currently it's set to 1 beat. You can do 3/4 of the beat, half beat, quarter beat, So again, you're getting different sounds here. Of course, you can make them larger. The right arrow. Just like that. Very, very cool. So yeah, beat effects, basically, they allow you to have a little bit more hands-on. They allow you to get a little bit more hands-on when it comes to parameters of your effects. Let's have a listen to the others. Delay. Psychedelic. Spiral. I love these spacey effects. Got reverb. You can change the size of the reverb. Transformer. This is how fast the gate sounds or transformer chopping sounds are. Enigma Jet, Flanger, Phaser, got a pitch shifter here too. Yeah, so lots of really funky effects that can really heighten your mix, add tension, and just make the crowd go crazy. Of course, when you use them sparingly and in the right places. That's why it's really important to practice. Awesome. The last one, Mobius Triangle. It's a shepherd tone. Sounds like it's going up forever. But yeah, it's super cool. So that's a DDJ-800 for you. Let's try mixing out of this track and into this other one. Again, just like a really nice controller. Lets you do so much in such a tiny package. And you get so many features, stuff that you'd find on the DJ-1000, like the jog wheel screens, the effects, but in like a smaller, more compact package. So if you do like a lot of bar gigs, pub gigs, you know, not necessarily playing like bigger clubs or not playing a lot of like those huge marquee events or functions, maybe something like this is something that's more suited to your style of DJing. Maybe you don't want to take around like a huge controller, like, as I mentioned, the DDJ-1000 or even the DDJ-RZ. So this kind of bridges the gap between the DDJ-400, which is the entry-level, really tiny controller, and the DDJ-1000, which is the current flagship. This sits right in the middle and just gives you the best of both worlds, I think. Lots of power, lots of functionality, lots of features, and those beautiful screens again at a more compact and smaller form factor that, you know, if your venue doesn't have like a really large DJ table or a large DJ booth, this is going to fit the bill pretty nicely, or at least it's going to be a lot smaller compared to trying to fit in an entire DDJ-1000 in a tiny little booth. The DDJ-800 is a good controller for Rekordbox DJ with mature features on board. It comes in at under $900 and you get most of the features of the DDJ-1000, stuff like the jog wheel displays and beat effects, but in a more portable form factor. It's small, but it still looks professional, and while it's not cheap, it's still $200 cheaper than the DDJ-1000. And that's not much of a jump, and there will be DJs who would rather spend an extra $200 to get full-size jogs and 4 channels. But for DJs who want something small and who gig a lot in smaller venues like pubs and bars, the DDJ-800 might be the better option. Now, if you are torn between the 1000 and the 800, ultimately your choice will depend on 2 things. 1, do you need 4 channels? And 2, do you even need a big controller with full-size jog wheels? If your answer to both is no, then the 800 is the better option. If you've still got a last generation controller like the DDJ-RR or the DDJ-RZ, and you're not interested in jog wheel displays, or you don't plan on spinning with a CDJ or DJM club setup anytime soon, you really aren't missing much if you decide to skip on upgrading. And the reason is because there really isn't much innovation on the DDJ-800 as there is evolution. It's like it's a sign of how mature DJ controllers have become. It's kind of similar to how smartphones just keep iterating instead of actually innovating. So I hope you like this in-depth review. Let me know what your favorite thing about the DDJ-800 is in the comments below, or even what you don't like about it. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now get good, get out there, and make the moments.